Yeah, exactly. You have all the, I don't know, all the what's it called? Posturing when you bring that into a fight, and then it's like, oh, it doesn't work. Oh. Okay, never mind. Fix the bug where sometimes Maeve would respawn in the air. My God, this has been around for a long time.
Did you? Was it you or Charles who figured this one out?
I figured this one out. I just spent some time, and we got it. We finally got it.
Wonderful.
I've hid this bug for a long time.
And then one more, guys. Fix the bug with Tallis' Raging Demon Legendary, where the duration increase was longer than intended. So that'll be a little shorter and more at the.
It'll be what it's supposed to be. It was too strong. He was able to shoot fast with infinite ammo for way too long.
Well, it's time to get into the balance, guys. I'm excited. You guys ready? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's
and check out the other.
But yes, please.
Yeah, there's over 75. This was just 8. The featured 8.
That was just 8, but there are so many others. And again, it's a showcase of how the team is kind of with this new direction, really going into trying to polish this game, make it the best that it possibly can be for everyone, because that's really what we're here for, to make a great game and to continue making that game better, thanks to your feedback. So thank you guys so much. And Roxas, let's get into him. He's starting things off. He's getting a couple of touches in a nice way. He's getting some increased maximum health from 2,000 to 2,100, and he's also seeing his reversal cooldown lowered from 16 seconds to 14 seconds at base.
Yeah, so what it came down to, Androxus can do so well when he's piloted by a really good player.
Yeah.
But he dies a ton, and he just wasn't really that safe. And we want to give players a better opportunity to get that good with him, right?
Right.
So we're going to make him a little bit more survivable, increase his maximum health, and with reversal, hopefully give him a more consistent way to defend himself.
Yeah, as a flank champion, when he gets to that back line, you want him to be able to stand toe-to-toe with most people in a 1v1, and the drop in reversal, so it's a little bit more up consistently, as well as the slight increase to health should make those 1v1s, when you're able to get to that back line, a little bit more consistent.
Definitely will help him, and so Androxus players, look out for that one. We've got another change coming to Buck. This is an interesting one. We're increasing the animation time on recovery by half a second. And I think the intention of this is probably just to be able to not shoot, pop, shoot. And maybe take a little bit more of a conscious decision to heal rather than still doing the same amount of damage.
It just was too free, right? Shoot, pop, shoot. And you didn't actually lose any time. You didn't lose any damage. Now, you still got a great heal. But when you use it, you're sacrificing your damage output for that period of time. It's a little bit extended so that players can take action against it, right? Like, they can use that to move away from you or to CC you or something like that.
Exactly.
So hopefully there's more counterplay.
It's a very minor change, but sometimes all it comes down to in situations is, who gets that last shot off.
Yeah.
And that should allow players to have a little bit more of an ability to counter Buck when they are in those spots.
And I think more just for Buck players to think more how they engage and when they use their skills, and just more conscious gameplay rather than just being a beefcake going in there, healing, shooting. Whatever comes up, I'm able to deal with it. Buck, recovery, that's a pretty good combo. Check out the new changes for that. It should be good to play against and still play. Cassie, she's getting an adjustment. Now, we've talked about her a lot in these last few weeks because she had a legendary called Just Breathe, which was just breathing all over everybody in the realm very effectively. And now that's seeing a little bit of an adjustment here. Let's go through it. Damage scaling now occurs between 70 feet and 150 feet instead of the 0 feet to 150 feet. So it will now have a base distance before it starts to scale and increase that damage. Just Breathe was previously mislabeled as units instead of feet. That's something to note. And the level 1 damage has been decreased from 42% to 22%, while the level 10 damage has been decreased from 65% to 40%. So what's the goal with this?
So I think one of the main goals with Cassie is, when you load into any match with a Paladin or a champion in Paladins, you want to be able to have different play styles, not only just for a player themselves to enjoy, whether it's focusing on your weapon shots or some of your abilities, but also just to have the ability to counter kind of different situations that are appearing. Who am I playing against? Do I need to be shredding front lines or dealing more with flanks? And right now, Just Breathe was the clear choice in almost every single situation. It was just a huge flat damage increase, and that's not really what we wanted. Interesting enough, Cassie actually doesn't even have that high of a win rate, but Just Breathe was so polarizing that it really felt impactful and powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the highest level of play, it was used like 97% of the time, which is, that's a lot. I mean,
doesn't surprise me, though.
Yeah, it was very good, and it was good in every situation. So now we want it to still be strong, but it's strong when you're playing that Cassie from range, when you're you're landing those downtown shots, and then if you're getting up close, maybe you're going to look for, you know, damage after roll or damage on your blast shot.
Right.
Depending on whether you want to duel and be mobile or whatever.
Yeah, I think the purpose of this is to make this card positioned as a long-range damage increase, right? If you're picking this legendary, you want to be a little bit further back, and so having that 70 foot before the damage starts scaling really emphasizes that play style and allows you, like James said, to go for other legendaries depending on your situation. And then obviously the damage scaling was pretty significant, so that's been brought down as well.
Yeah, so that'll be adjusted, and, you know, Cassie also seeing some base adjustments. I think the key with her is even before Just Breathe, it was Exaction, and Exaction was the high play rate that everyone pretty much always defaulted to. So again, looking to level out those legendaries and make them a little bit more enticing for new players to try all of them and change their play styles. Cassie's seeing a base health increase by 100 health, 2,200 to 2,300. She's also seeing increased base damage from 650 to 680. So Just Breathe nerf, but base damage increase. Blast Shot, this is a big one. Blast Shot, kind of a slow projectile. Now getting a projectile speed increase and no longer reducing healing. Some of those cards that she has changing, like Kinetics, Kevin, now reduces healing by 9% per rank. What's the impact from that change?
The big one on this is really just to keep this ability as flexible as possible for players. So now you'll be a little bit more consistent hitting it with an increased projectile speed, but also removing the healing from it means that if you want to go that anti-healing, now you can spec into a loadout that has kinetics that is now a little bit more effective. And if you're using a different style or playing a different style, you can just be using it as a damage increase instead of having this weird thing where you don't know if you should use it or wait to use it in a certain situation for your team where you want it to anti-heal. Now it's very specific in if you want to go the anti-healing route, you go this kinetics card.
Yeah, and that's consistent with our other champions that have anti-healing on cards. And then speaking of consistency, base Cassie was not performing very well. Just Breathe was giving her life, but without that card, she was not doing well. So we're going to try and bring her up and make sure that she's in a good spot because Cassie's so much fun, right? Like the rolling and the shooting, she's got great flow. We want to make sure that that's a viable option for our players.
It's also important to note that the damage scaling decrease on Just Breathe is not as heavy of a hit as it initially seems. It's still a significant hit, but the increase in the base damage will apply to that scaling as well, so it's not as massive of a drop. I think it's a little bit more than 100 at the top end of your hits that'll be taken off.
So hopefully the card will still be viable when used in the correct situation.
Gotcha.
But, you know, buck in your face, not going to get
not as widely applicable. Exactly. You have to make some more choices. Fernando, the Realm. He is one of these staple characters, the big guy with the big shield, and now he's getting a treatment to his ultimate that's going to allow him to save his teammates even more because it doesn't require line of sight.
Yeah, it just felt a little weird, right? Like he's got this big glowing aura around him. It encompasses, you know, basically an entire fighting space, right? And sometimes it was confusing, and you'd be like, "Oh, I'm safe," but you actually weren't because you couldn't see Fernando.
You're behind the box, you know.
And he couldn't use it exactly when he wanted to because maybe he wasn't in the right spot. So now it's more versatile. It's still very strong, and hopefully it'll, you know, just feel better to use.
And yeah, and just from a player perspective that's receiving it as well, there's now no more confusion for you.
Right.
I think we noticed that. I think I was confused as well a little bit. I'm like, oh, I'm in the circle. I've damaged him. No, I'm not.
Yeah, there's a box in the way.
There's a box in the way.
Yeah.
So it's just gonna feel. It's just gonna feel better. And I think that's one of the key aspects to this change is we want to make sure abilities feel good from the base level.
Right. Well, I got some talking to do about Evey if we have a for next patch because that blink I could sneeze farther than I blink at base for Evey. I'll tell you that right now.
You've got a very powerful sneeze. I've
seen him.
My sneeze ain't that great. I'm telling you, I can walk. I'll walk faster than the distance I blink on the base Evey blink. Grok, let's talk about him. 2,500 health, very tanky guy. One of the better champions. Win rate rise. Not in terms of supports, in terms of all of Paladins.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's getting a little bit of a takedown here. 2,500 health to 2,400. Also, the healing totem reduced from 1,500 health to 1,000. So a little bit less of a indestructible kind of totem that he's got there. I want to go through his legendary changes, too. We can talk about it collectively. His legendary Totemic Ward is getting a decrease in healing buff to that totem by 10%. So that extra healing will be reduced by 10%. And he's also getting an internal cooldown to Wraith, bringing it back up to that 45 seconds it initially was from the 30 seconds it currently is.
Right. So, as you said, Grok's very good. One of the best champions in the game in almost every situation. He's very hard to kill. and he does a ton of damage. I mean, he's competitive with
It's like top
the marquee damage champions.
7, 8, somewhere around there.
Right, like, you know, you could get Drogos, you could get Leon,
What's Grok
or you could
not
just
good
play
at?
Grok, right?
Yeah.
Because he can heal too. So we wanted to make him a little bit more vulnerable, first by reducing his health, but also making his healing totem more readily killable. I remember talking to Pretty Hair about one game he had where his team was all direct damage and there was a Grok. And they couldn't kill the totem because there were always people standing in front of it, so they just couldn't hit it. Well, now, when you do get that opportunity to shoot the totem, it'll go down a little bit faster, and Grok players will have to invest into cards if they want to keep that totem alive long.
Yeah, I think he's, in his current state, unique to a lot of the other sport champions, and we really like that. You know, his healing is very window-based, but incredibly powerful, especially in teamfight scenarios, and then again, the hit to Wraith, because his survivability, Grok just doesn't die, he has, you know, damage immunity.
Yep.
Right.
And so when looking at, you know, what we kind of wanted to adjust to bring him in line with the other supports, we liked his identity, that he's doing a little bit more damage, that he's great at objective control, and that he has this healing window. But we wanted, I think, players to be able to counter it when that window appears, instead of having to choose between, you know, if you're shooting champions, they're just getting, they're healing through it a lot of the times. And so if you are able to kill that totem quick enough, that is that ability for you to counter it in a team fight.
Definitely. Makes a lot of sense, too. Maybe we'll make Bulldozer a lot of champions really not able to one-shot that. So now maybe if it's at 1,000 health, you have a 900
We want
damage
Bulldozer
shot.
to be able to get the job done if you choose to invest in it.
Sure, absolutely. So that's going to be an impact for Grok. Next patch, we've also got Grover getting a bit of a base damage adjustment, going from, I believe, 330 to 300 at his base. He will still scale up off of that, not only with his own base kit, but also with Velocity if you choose that legendary. The adjustment to Efflorescence, however, is seeing a reduction in the passive healing radius, being no longer scalable with level. Now, it also increases the passive healing radius by 50% to make that bigger, but again, losing that kind of level scaling to it.
Right, so this was just one of the few legendaries that scaled 2 numbers, and that was out of whack, that was out of line, so now it only scales 1. Should still be very good. I mean, 50% radius increase is nothing to sneeze at.
Cool.
As for the damage, Grover just does a ton of damage, man. Yeah. It was a little out of line, so we just toned it down a little bit. And it still scales, so he's still going to do good damage from range.
You're going to see a lot of Grovers in Battlegrounds. I already know we've seen Kevin rocking the full Grover squad, chasing us down, and, you know, he hurts. So definitely expect to see this guy brought a little bit more into line from the damage perspective, still able to do quite a bit for a support, as all our supports do, and still be a lot of fun to play. We have a lot to cover, so I want to move on to some more stuff. Kanessa's got a big treatment here, and, of course, let's take a look at it. Decrease the fall off in her carbine mode is the first change that's happening. So she's going to be doing more damage from hopefully farther away with that initial shot, not the scoped in, and also increase the initial accuracy of carbine mode. When you say that, it makes a lot of sense. I feel like once you start shooting, you might miss a few times and then start to get it down. So that's going to be increased. She's also seeing an increase in ammo from 20 to 24. The other change that's happening is to her oppressive mines, and this is a pretty large, sweeping, more design change in terms of how you guys want it to function. I'll let you talk about that once I kind of lay out what's happening. You're removing the bonus damage from hitting enemies affected by oppressor mines with your carbine, non-scoped in Kanessa rifle. This no longer applies to slow, and it also will have itself a damage increase from 20 to 100 per second, and increasing the velocity of the mine thrown. So they're more, probably I would expect, the way Vivian throws her sentry
they go further
at that speed. So now they're more damage tools rather than utility tools to increase damage via your carbine.
It's a secondary damage source, right? Like, so if you're a pressure mine, you just want them to be ticking on people, contributing some damage to the team to sort of help out. And then we wanted to give options for utility to the Kanessa player, whereas baseline is just damage, and then you see the numbers, and you know where people are. But you could get a card that gives healing reduction through the mines, or we've changed the legendary, so now that will give you the damage increase when people are linked to the mine.
Suppression right now giving you 2% starting at 22, more damage to affected targets when you're in sniper mode.
Yeah, exactly. So you get a lot of damage on those people, and since those mines are hitting 3 people, 100 damage per second on 3 targets, that actually does add up.
I'm pretty sure this is going to be good, and I know we have to get this live and check it out. But I mean, Kevin, also some of these cards are changing to adjust for this, adding some ammo for regeneration for when you throw those out. Obviously, the enemies affected by oppressor mine can also take some debuffs, like reduced healing.
That's right. Agora vai sair. Só voltar pouquinho aqui.
So they're more, probably I would expect the way Vivian throws her sentry.
Yeah, they go further.
At that speed. So now they're more damage tools rather than utility tools to increase damage via your carbine?
It's a secondary damage source,
Okay.
right? Like, so if you're a pressure mine, you just want them to be ticking on people, contributing some damage to the team to sort of help out. And then we wanted to give options for utility to the Kanessa player, whereas baseline is just damage, and then you see the numbers, and you know where people are. But you could get a card that gives healing reduction through the mines, or we've changed the legendary, so now that will give you the damage increase when people are linked to the mine.
Suppression right now giving you 2%, starting at 22, more damage to affected targets when they're sniper.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll get a lot of damage on those people, and since those mines are hitting 3 people, 100 damage per second on 3 targets, that actually does add up.
I'm pretty sure this is going to be good, and I know we have to get that slab and check it out. But I mean, Kevin, also some of these cards are changing to adjust for this, adding some ammo for regeneration for when you throw those out. Obviously, the enemies affected by a pressure mine can also take some debuffs, like reduced healing and increasing the range of these. This is just kind of again to bring some of that utility into them if you want to build into the cards. Yeah,
Octopressor is going to be there for the anti-healing as well as well-stocked card for the ammo. Another reason for this change, I think, is there was some frustration from, maybe not for the Kanessa player, obviously, because you're not the one getting slowed, but specifically well-placed mines in certain parts of maps. The slow happens, and it can be a little bit frustrating. It can be very frustrating, actually, for players. And I think this, design-wise, kind of repurposes it as that secondary damage tool if someone gets up close. So now you not only have the carbine mode, but also these mines that are going to be ticking for more damage, so you can engage people, although a little bit more strategically, when you're in frontline fights.
Or throw them on the point, and they're going to contribute damage to your team. And then, as we mentioned earlier, your carbine should just be feeling better to use.
Great.
This also comes, I don't know if we mentioned it, but it comes with an aesthetic change as well.
Yes, to the new weapon. So a lot of new sweeping changes for Kanessa. She's a lot of fun in Battlegrounds, one of my favorite champions, as well as Strix. Snipers are a ton of fun. So this should make her even more poignant, and also, I think, exciting for new players to check out and try in this new mode. Now, moving on to one of the oldest, baddest dudes in the realm, Dambha. He has been dominating Battlegrounds. Anywhere else, as always, maybe not from a play rate perspective, but just when you do the right things at the right time, he's almost impossible to take down. And one of the things that was adding to that was his 1v1 potential with Wakono's Curse, this legendary that basically went through shields of enemy players, went through Roxas reversal, did a ton of damage, and was hit scan across anywhere in the map. That's seeing a bit of an adjustment, lowering those values from 595 to 440 at level 1, and at level 10 from 910 to 800.
Yeah, we really like the idea of a healing character having an option to contribute damage to his team. That's interesting, and potentially opens up some interesting situations in the draft where maybe you take Meldam on your team to deprive the healer, but also then use him as a damage threat, right? That's very cool. But it was too good. It was doing too much damage.
It's pretty good.
So we've toned that down a little bit. So especially up close when he's using both Wakono's Curse and his Snake's Spit.
Oh man,
you're not gonna be as potent, but still should be a strong option for people who do like the playstyle.
And from what I understand too, intentionally not supposed to go through.
Yes, yeah, that is a bug that'll be listed along with all the other bug fixes in the patch.
Okay.
It will not go through shields.
It will not go through enemy shields. So Androxus, you put that reversal up. Fernando, you put that up. You will be safe from the long-range sniping snake.
Yes.
Okay, that is good to know. We've also got another healer who's been a ton of fun and always one of everybody's favorites, the Volpine Pip himself. He's seeing a card adjusted, which has always been a really interesting give-and-take card, Escape Artist. It's now being reworked and just giving you a flat 3% damage reduction, plus 3% every level during your waitlist.
it could have powerful results, obviously because it had massive damage reduction. But it just, you know, from a player wanting to
not being able to fire,
not being able to fire and canceling it out, or you know, say you accidentally fire, especially if you're a new player joining Paladins, and maybe you spec this card, and it can be a little bit of a breaking feel to how Pip traditionally is played, and I think this is just going to allow the card to just feel better when you do run it.
Yeah, I mean, you said give and take, and we think that's interesting, but in this case, the cost was too high, and going deeper into the damage reduction sort of feels like it wouldn't be enough, right? Like, it could be 100%, but I still want to shoot during weightless.
Now that we can use all our abilities during weightless,
exactly.
you want that to be a free-flowing experience. So that'll be cool. I actually think that will start to be probably looked at. Pip's got a lot of great cards, which is why if something's not great, it's hard to pick it up in your other ones, but very cool adjustment. Check that out coming in OB66. Shaolin, he's seeing some adjustments too, and we're getting towards the end of this, so stay with us. I know it's a lot of changes, but man, we haven't been here for a while. Withdraw no longer leaves an illusion of Shaolin. Overcharge now, excuse me, I'm sorry, Heat Haze no longer also leaves illusions of Shaolin, and instead reveals him for 0.5 seconds. So talk to us about this sweeping change, the purpose of this.
Clarity. It just comes down to clarity, right? He was summoning these illusions. It wasn't clear what they did. They didn't really have any gameplay impacts. They were meant to be a tell, but in the end, I think it ended up confusing players more. And the Heat Haze change, it actually looks really cool.
Yes.
So there's, you know, like an arrow flies out of thin air, and you just see Shaolin like shimmer as he fades away again. But it also gives you something to respond to, right? Because you see him, you have that half second to make that reaction. Where you actually have something to aim at, as opposed to like trying to do math in your head to be like, oh, he's moving this direction, so he's here. Yeah. It'll feel better, and it's a lot more quicker.
Yeah, that makes sense to me as well. And I kind of skipped over through to the next one. Kev, you can kind of help us round that out. Tallis, Blitz Upper, seeing an increased cooldown from 8 seconds to 10 seconds, and Overcharge seeing an increased cooldown from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. So what's the aim with this?
Yeah, so you know, I read a bunch of feedback on Tallis and players complaining about, you know, obviously his high burst potential. We actually intended to put Tallis kind of in that realm of a character, right? This window-based character where when you activate your abilities, you are going to almost, you're going to be able to, if you can isolate someone, you can get that 1v1, and you're winning at a lot of the times, especially as a flank character. But this was happening just very often. 8 seconds, you know, you'd be able to continuously do this back and forth. So we like the idea of Tallis being this, I'm going to isolate you within this small window and be able to 1v1 you, but it was just happening a little bit too often. So to start off, we're just bumping the cooldowns on Blitz Upper and Overcharge to 10 seconds. So small adjustment, but we think this will have a pretty significant impact on his gameplay.
And I mean, James, you know, having been in the backseat of designing Tallis, obviously an interesting character because not every character can launch, have a kind of tricky kit, and then still somehow succeed at the pro level, then achieve kind of a lot of people playing him, and then be very successful from that point. But Tallis has been able to do that, so I feel pretty confident. I think you guys do that Tallis will still be a viable.
He'll be just as strong. He just won't be as strong as frequently, right? Because we're actually really happy with what he can do when he's having his moment.
Yeah.
But he was just always ready, and that was the problem. There was never a point where you feel like, okay, Tallis he's used his resources, and now I can take a really good fight with him.
Gotcha. Well, we're rounding things out here. We're at the V, and that stands for Victor, of course. Frag Grenade, getting an increase to the projectile speed. Just want to be able to go faster.
Throw it further. He's got a strong arm. He's been working out.
He's got some good shrapnel legendaries as well.
I think it's gonna make that legendary and some of the card options a lot more viable. It seems like a small change, but I think players who get used to the new projectile speed will really be able to utilize it, because I think you're setting yourself up to be a little bit more consistent in that damage. Players can't prepare if they see the grenade coming, or they can prepare, but it's just a smaller window for them to react.
Very, very cool stuff. Of course, Willow is another champion that's always such an interesting look. And
não muito significativo, mas que pode pegar os inimigos de surpresa e tal.
Willow has actually, as a result of player feedback, received a new default voice.
Yeah, we got feedback that her voice was annoying, and
you just gonna really throw it out there. You really throwing it out there.
It was annoying and it was frustrating. We liked it because it sort of fit her character.
Onde a Dead Zone.
It was. So we made some changes. We've got a different voice that still hopefully is Willow, still has that character and that personality, but should just be a little bit less grating.
Well, she's also getting, along with that, she's also getting a couple of changes to Dead Zone, and there's a couple of bug fixes in here, but overall this is a buff. Fix a bug where Dead Zone projectile would not properly deal damage if it didn't directly hit. So if you wonder, I'm taking Nightshade, why is it not hitting? It's because you had to directly impact them, otherwise it wouldn't do any damage. Now that will, and anybody who steps in that will take damage, but if they're hit by Dead Zone, it will have fall off from the center of that actual ability.
And to be clear, that this damage is only when the projectile actually detonates and becomes the dead zone. So it's only in that moment.
Okay, not a persistent.
It's not persistent. No, it's just it's in that instant.
Gotcha.
And then it will have damage fall off based on how far away you are from the center, just to make sure that you're not on the very edge and you're taking the full blast.
Right.
Losing half your health.
Exactly. Well, that's what Willow does, kind of. Taking, gives you out full blast that take away half or more of your health. That's kind of her thing, and also fixing a bug in the description that indicated Seedling did 500 damage instead of 400, so that will be clearer for all new players. Last change, last balance change, guys, in OB66. Ying is actually getting a buff. Can you believe it? All my Ying, I don't know what I have to say. This is a moment. Do we have to take it? Do we have to silence here?
Is there anyone you'd like to thank?
I just want to thank the design team. I want to thank myself for proving that this was a good buff in playtest by whooping both of you consistently.
It was scary, man. It was scary.
I'm so excited for new players. You guys have wanted some love to one of your favorite supports, one of the oldest and most iconic supports in the game, and she is getting some love. Let me clarify.
She was actually, I think, my first favorite character.
Sorry.
First, well,
girlfriend?
No, okay. Can't talk about that.
I'm not trying.
It's inappropriate.
My bad.
But no, she's definitely one of my favorite characters, especially when I was testing Paladins when it was before it was even announced publicly years ago. So I'm actually very excited for these changes too.
Well, let's talk about it. Illusory Mirror thought it didn't really fire far enough. Weren't happy with the 100 units that it traveled. Well, how about not 200 units? How about 300? 300 units. That Illusory Mirror was going to be hitting cross map, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you, and it is a ton of fun. The damage fall off still begins at 100 feet, so you will not really be taking. You will still be missing damage, especially if you take focusing lens and hit all 5 shots. But this is a huge change in keeping Ying in the fight all the time and being able to kill from a safe distance, like a lot of other Legendary cards Life Exchange also has a reduction to the cooldown of Shatter by 1 second, but really it's all about this damage from the weapon.
This is a big feeling thing too, because as a support player, a lot of times you're typically in the back of a fight, but you'd still like to contribute damage, especially in Paladins where everyone is doing damage. We are a shooter. We want everyone to actively participate in these fights. But Ying specifically, who's placing illusions and then sometimes even going further back, there was a lot of times where you're just not able to engage and you're missing out a lot of just, I think, fun in matches a lot of times without having to put yourself in an awkward position or get a little bit too close. So the 300 feet is going to allow you to still actively participate in fights and in extended engagements or longer range engagements on certain maps, while still being able to sit from that safe distance and heal and do what you're supposed to do, as a Ying player, as someone who's looking to heal and support the team.
And it should be less confusing too, right? Like there are definitely times where you can see someone and they're just too far away, and you're still shooting at them.
Am I hitting?
And you're waiting for them to get close enough. Now you're going to be able to hit them from almost any range. For clarity, it's the same range as Tyra's assault rifle.
Right.
So
or Ceres's Mortal Reach legendary.
Yep. So if you can shoot him with Tyra, you can shoot him with Ying now.
Well, that's exciting stuff, and of course, everybody loves to shoot in a first-person shooter.
That's the goal.
I gotta say, that's probably something that people are gonna enjoy. Guys, that wraps up the balance changes. That almost wraps up the show. We've got one more thing we want to let you know before we kick off OB66, get the PTS rolling live, and of course, as it's been, of course, launched to you guys tomorrow, which is very, very exciting. We have a Mixer show that's going to be talking all about Paladins coming up, and so if you are not familiar with the platform of the show, it's mixer.com/MixerLFG, looking for group. It's a cool show. They're going to talk about Paladins Battlegrounds. It's taking place on March 2nd at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. So if you're on the East Coast time, you're high-res time essentially. It is 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. It's a 2-hour show. Paladins Battlegrounds will be discussed. Check it out. Mixer.com/Mixer looking for group LFG. And that is going to be it for that. Guys, James, Kevin, thank you so much for being on this portion of the show. I mean, anything you want to say? PTS is obviously live until we launch
That's right.
tomorrow live. So play Paladins Battlegrounds now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go on the forums, leave us your feedback, bug reports. We'll be checking there for all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I think the community team also has set up a special sub-forum just for Battlegrounds.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Bug reporting and feedback, so make sure to get, you know, every little thing in that you see. This is definitely still in an alpha state, but we're excited to kind of let a mass amount of players get to try it here with the release of 66.
Expect some bugs, expect a few things, but we know you're going to love it. We get more feedback, we get more players, and it's ready to go. So we're excited to show you OB66's Paladins Battlegrounds and all the new changes and cosmetics coming out soon. As always, my friends, from everyone here at High Res Studios, thanks so much for watching. As always, remember to never give up, never stop gaming, and we'll see you all in the realm.
Falou.